Here's a question you probably haven't stopped to consider. Are you a pro-marriage parent? My next guest says your attitude about love, intimacy, and commitment can be one of your most powerful parenting teaching tools. Dr. Liz Hale is joining me. Great to see you.
Nice seeing you.
I love this topic. In fact, you believe parents can have a big influence on young adults' views on marriage. Before we get into the specifics on that, though, I want your take on the bigger picture. What is your take on how millennials, the research shows, are delaying marriage, putting off that commitment until just a little bit later than their parents did?
You know, it used to be, even like as early as a decade ago, that marriage was a cornerstone of emerging adulthood, right? We were married as we finished educations and started careers and started families. But now it's become more of a capstone that I'll get to marriage, or I really love marriage, want marriage, but not yet. I want it as a capstone. In other words, after education, after a blossoming career, after I've moved a few times, after I paid off student debt. And the idea is that we're marrying later and later, and some of us aren't getting to marriage at all.
Well, we hear all the time, Liz, from moms, from grandmas who are really concerned, genuinely concerned from a good place, not kind of that nosy meddling, but from a sincere place of heart, that they're watching their kids, their grandkids, put this off, and it concerns them. Does it concern you as a marriage therapist?
Well, I know it concerned my father when I wasn't married, you know, in my 30s and 40s, and it was so interesting that I really do think he really worried about it. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know this till after he passed away, but Ben and I married in August, and my father passed away in December. And I really think there was some connection there that he was like, oh, phew, I can stop worrying. Sometimes I think we need to start worrying about our kids more as they get married. You know, that's another fundamental change. But it really meant something to him. And I think that we have a lot of power as the adults in these young, emerging adult lives. We have a lot of influence.
You caught my ear many years ago. We were having a conversation about marriage, strengthening marriage, and you made a comment about seeking a good marriage therapist, and you said, make sure you seek a therapist who is pro-marriage. And I remember thinking, aren't all therapists pro-marriage? So now we'll apply that title to the parenting role. You want to encourage people to be a pro-marriage parent. What does that look like? What's the benefit of that?
Well, you know, sometimes I think, I mean, poor parents, bless their hearts. I'm not a parent, so every time I talk about parents, I always feel a little guilty. But I think we just need to understand that even as aunties, you know, and mentors and therapists, that sometimes we send a mixed message. Sometimes we'll say, look, don't get married too young. You know, go have some fun, take your time, enjoy life, as if the hidden message is, it's all downhill after you get married. So we don't mean to suggest that. I understand the meaning behind it, but these poor kids are really learning a lot from social media. You know, they learn about the devastation of divorce, like from Hollywood even, and then they learn about the fantasy of finding a soulmate and being a princess, right? With Prince Harry and Meghan, I guess it is, right? Soon to be Princess Meghan. So they don't really know what to do with that. It's quite a conundrum for them. You know, where do I fall?
A couple great steps that parents can take on. First, you say model long-term successful marriage, right? We're the best example. We can be the best example.
Right, we can. And sometimes, you know, marriage doesn't go that way, right? For some parents. But at least we can be very proactive, like, I want that for you. I want you to grow old with someone. I want you to learn about sacrifice and forgiveness and compassion and intimacy. I want that for you. And provide for them other examples. You know, let's go talk to so-and-so and so-and-so. They have a really great marriage that you and I both admired. I wonder how they did that. Let's get really curious about it. Help them with good literature and good education. We know more today about what makes a healthy marriage than we ever have before. It's a really good time to be married, interestingly enough. We know we have such good information. I'm really inspired by some of the couples I've seen lately who are dating and who are coming to dating counseling with me. It's at first I didn't quite know what to do with it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, well, have you decided to get married? No, we're not sure. We're not sure we're meant to be. We don't know how to do this. And I have such respect for that.
That they're putting in the work before.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, because of course, none of us know how to do this. None of us can do this on our own. I didn't learn how to do it on my own, that's for sure.
So seeking out those resources. What can parents do to support children once they get married? I think that's a great point that you just made, that you wish parents would be more concerned maybe after they tie the knot, after they say I do, than they are about the actual step.
Right. I got this tip from Dr. Alan Hawkins at the BYU. He and I worked on the marriage commission together, and he said, you know, instead of just saying, okay, you're married now, you know, you're on your own.
Good job.
Like,
yeah,
maybe parents really need to spend a little bit more time and effort going, you know, what can I do to help you? Is it living in the basement for a while? Do you want me to help you with education if there's resources to do that? One family I worked with, I thought it was very interesting. They had 7 adult children in various stages of life. I think the oldest was 30, had a family, and the youngest was still single, going to college, various college, and trying to get careers started. The mother or the father received some inheritance, small amount, But they said, you know what, now is a time when our kids could use some support. Not after we die, you know, and when they're near, maybe reaching close to retirement, they need it now. So they gave them all like this Christmas gift. They felt that they had responsible children who are really going to use that for education, or putting it in a 529 plan for their small children to start that process of saving for college.
It can be a fine line. Parents hear that you shouldn't be too involved. It's an important time, you know, for this couple to establish their own family unity. So what is the balance there? Do you have a good guideline for parents to know how involved to be?
Just keep in mind that millennials are not marrying because of the great stress around finances in particular.
Gotcha.
And so if parents can alleviate some of that, I think it could help take away some of that great angst around it. So you have to know your kids. You know, it is a very personal decision. You have to know them and how responsible they are and what works and what doesn't. You meet them halfway. You have to know that and have those conversations and maybe even have a contract.
I like this next point, make marriage part of the process, not the end goal. You talked about it going from cornerstone to capstone, kind of that shift.
I think even starting when our kids are very young, you know, I'm going to teach you how to do chores because your wife's going to thank me one day, son. You know what I mean? She's going to be so happy that you were raised by me because I'm going to teach you how to be a gentleman and how to work hard. Because one day you'll have your own family. So start very young to say, you know, one day you'll be a wife and a mother. We hope that for each other. It doesn't always work out, right? But it's a responsible way, I think, to approach life, to be more we-centered, thinking of others than me-centered.
Well, that's one concern you have about millennials, I know, is that they're going to have a hard time going from me to we.
Just think about that. If you spend decades, and I can speak from experience, right, spending decades being very individualistic and very focused on that, unless you find other ways to really give and serve, it's really hard to go from me to a we, you know, to a couple focus or other focus. So help your emerging adults think about outside of themselves, you know, what they can do to serve and to give back, so they are more prepared to bring someone into their world. They're not so set. It gets really difficult the more set you are to find another person who can fit that jigsaw puzzle just right, because you feel so established.
So teach the we, promote the we. I like that point as well. I also like this final note, view marriage as a grand adventure. How can we, Liz, as parents, make marriage seem like a happy, worthy, uplifting goal? Right,
again, it kind of goes back to have your fun now, you know, because it's all down here from now. In other words, it's going to be so exciting when you have a partner to share this with and really want that for your child. You want them to grow old with someone. You don't want them to be alone. And again, not everyone chooses to marry. It doesn't always work out. I got married super late in life. Didn't think I would ever, as much as I wanted it. But expect that, you know, it's so wonderful to do this sacrifice and to learn how to love someone unconditionally. And there is no greater happiness than to be loved unconditionally and to learn to love someone else unconditionally. We want the best for our kids.
Great advice, Liz. Thanks for helping us promote that best. We appreciate it.